another story for you tonight. And this was told by a man who worked with juvenile offenders right here in DC. And both youths were gang members who had committed homicide. One, a 14-year-old, had shot and killed an innocent teen to prove himself to the gang. And during the trial, the mother of the murdered youth sat silently through the whole trial. And when it was over, the youth was convicted of the killing. And after the verdict was announced, she stood up, she stared directly at him, and she said, "I'm going to kill you." And then the youth was taken away to serve several years in a juvenile facility. 6 months after that, the young man went to jail, the mother went to visit him, the mother of the child. Now, he'd been living on the streets before the killing, and she was the only visitor he'd had. And for a time they talked, and when she left him money for snacks, and she started to visit more regularly, bringing food, small gifts. She'd asked him how he was doing, what was on his mind. She just listened. Near the end of the 3-year sentence, she asked him what he'd be doing when he got out, and he was confused and uncertain, so she offered to set him up with a job at a friend's company. Then she inquired about where he'd live, and since he had no family to return to, she offered him temporary use of the spare room in her home. For 8 months he lived there, ate her food, worked at the job. Then one evening she called him into the living room to talk. She sat down opposite him, long pause, and then she started, "Do you remember that day in the courtroom when I said that I was going to kill you?" And his response, "I sure do." And she said, "Well, I did." She said, "I did not want the boy who could kill my son for no reason to remain alive on this earth. I wanted him to die. And that's why I started to visit you and bring you things, to listen, to talk, get you a job, let you live here. That's how I set about changing you." And that old boy, he's gone. So now I want to ask, since my son is gone and that killer is gone, if you'll stay here. I've got room, and I'd like to adopt you, if you'll let me. And she became the mother of her son's killer, the mother he had never had. I share that story not because such kind of heroic forms of forgiveness that we should be able to do something that's out of our capacity, but that there's a possibility in this, in the worst of situations, to see past the mask, the conditioning, and to see who's there and serve who's really there. That's our possibility. That's what this evolution of consciousness makes possible. There's a saying that, to be kind, we must swerve often from our path. That whatever we think we're doing, that this waking up happens because we keep stopping and looking. Can you imagine if tonight or tomorrow, when you're with others, you slowed it down internally, just stepped off automatic, and something in you looked at the eyes that were looking at you and just knew, okay, this being struggles also. If something in you had that curiosity, what do you need? What does this person need? What we find when we start asking is that most everybody needs what we need, which is to, in some way, feel seen and cared about.